Alright, ladies and gents, welcome to the next video. So this is the 10 essentials to be safe when living with diabetes. The first one is to know and recognise the signs and symptoms of a low and high blood sugar, and whether we have reduced hyposensitivity, which basically means that we have reduced symptoms of low blood sugar, which is something that can happen if we have repeated episodes of low blood sugar, which is something we will want to avoid anyway, because when we feel what it feels like to have a low blood sugar, we definitely don't want them too often. Second one is to know what variables raise and lower blood sugar, and I'll be talking about that in a future video in this playlist. Third is to know how to raise and lower blood sugar effectively, and again I'll cover that in the playlist. They're the main, vast majority of the signs of a hypoglycemia, aka low blood sugar on the left there, and the signs of hyperglycemia, which is high blood sugar on the right. The difference between the kind of brain fog I find is that hypoglycemia, I find it just more difficult to think. I feel kind of like drained in terms of energy, whereas hyperglycemia, it feels like my head's kind of swimming almost. It's a very subtle difference, so it's probably better to rely on different signs, different symptoms to kind of differentiate, and to obviously do a blood test. That's the main way of knowing. So at the bottom there, I've just got sort of what I personally notice first. So the first ones I notice when I have a low blood sugar is fatigue and tiredness, kind of an inattention, which is kind of my body basically saying that something's wrong. The brain fog, so the kind of struggle getting my words out and thinking. I especially notice it for things like being in social situations and exercising. Paleness, normally on the fingers, on the tops of the fingers, and hunger. And then if it gets too bad, then I get a cold sweat and feel shaky. So these are kind of the main ones I notice personally. And with hyper, the first ones I normally notice is dry mouth, a bit of irritability, or more irritability than I would normally feel, and then that kind of swimming almost sensation in my head. And then if it gets too high for too long, then a sick feeling. And obviously we want to be avoiding both of these things, both too high and too low blood sugars. So in order to be safe when we've got diabetes, we've got to always have the following on or near us, or we should have anyway. Something to measure blood sugar, and we should test our blood sugar regularly, either with a blood testing meter or a continuous glucose monitor. Although if we're using a continuous glucose monitor, it's best to use a blood test occasionally throughout the day as well, just to calibrate it and make sure it's working all right. Something to lower blood sugar, so for example insulin, a way to administer said something, because it's not much use having insulin if we've got no injection kit or a pump or anything like that. Something to raise blood sugar, e.g. a pack of dextrose. I haven't got one with me, but well, I have, just not right to hand. But we want to make sure we've got plenty of it, especially if doing something that lowers blood sugar like exercise, and especially if we end up in a situation where we maybe won't be able to access any others. So if we were to go on a hike or something like that. We want to keep an emergency glucagon pen in the house and take it with us if we do something like a hike, and that's something that we can basically inject, and it forces the liver to release sugar into the system. So that's for emergency use when we're sort of, well, if we end up unconscious from low blood sugar. We always want to keep away of contacting someone in case we find ourselves in a situation where we can't help ourselves. So, and also to have some sort of ID on us just in case we do end up unconscious or can't explain what's happening, so that other people can recognise the problem that we've got and know how to sort of help us out. And that is pretty much it in a nutshell. So if you can think of anything else, please do put it in the comment section below, but I hope you find that useful, and hope to see you in the next video. Cheers.